What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to the Funky Brain Podcast. My name is Dennis, and this is my Funky Brain, and I got lots of things going through there. So sometimes I do some of this, and this helps me manage some of that. Sometimes I'm better than others, but I'm feeling much better now. Anyway, our guest today, very well-known, accomplished voice actor, appearing in hundreds of video games and animated TV shows. He's most notably known for providing the English voices in video game characters such as Raiden in the Metal Gear series and Marcus Damin in Digimon Data Squad. He also appeared in Final Fantasy, League of Legends, and the Sonic series, and he's an impressionist as well. Mr. Quinton Flynn, how are you doing today, sir?
It's great to be here, so Paul McCartney on the road, chilling here for Quinton, because he couldn't be here. He's a very busy man, but he thinks you're great, he loves your show, and he's got a funky brain too, man. I'm doing great, buddy.
Quentin has a funky brain. Not
Paul, that you, him, we together, I am the Eggman, goo goo gajoob. It's great.
You're the walrus.
So yeah, man, I'm glad. I'm all right. I'm good. I'm glad to be here. I was loving your introduction because I've got a funky brain too, and each day it differs, minute to minute, hour to hour. It takes things like this to kind of bring it together.
Yeah, I could argue that most of us have a little funky stuff going on up there.
Certainly.
I think some of us express it differently.
Yeah, and some of us are more aware of it than others.
We're working on our funky brains.
Absolutely, man, daily.
So those that know, listening to this Funky Brain podcast is kind of rooted in addiction recovery, alcoholism, and that's one of the reasons. Well, Quentin and I met through an intro from Heidi Swan, a friend of ours. I just think it's a good fit because of your journey in recovery. I'm sure you have some fun and or sad stories along the way of your alcoholism, addiction. So maybe you could share some of that with us.
Well, to begin with, yeah, we met through Heidi Swan, and Heidi wrote a book called A Night in Jail. For any of you out there who are interested, it's a novella. It's on, I'll let you know what you'll find out what it's on when you go check it out. You get the book itself, or you can hear me doing the audio book. There is a sample on Audible, and it's there's a psychotic break with reality and a bit of a schizophrenic journey. And I play two characters, or is it one? This kind of guy over here. What are you doing? What the fuck you're doing? I know exactly what I'm doing. Staying away from you. You're not staying away from me. I'm staying away from you. I'm inside you. You're inside me. Fuck off. Yeah. Woo! There's a little sample. And
that's like powerful stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. It gets intense, as our brains do sometimes, as the funky brain does.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your journey. You're in the entertainment industry, so I'm sure that had some influence on your background.
I've been in show business for about 30 years. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, outside of Cleveland. I would say I was, pretty active in sports and council and school and then drama. I was always an artist, a fine artist, before I became a performing artist. Somewhere along the lines, as you've heard in many other people's stories, I found the elixir alcohol. And once I put it to my lips and into my body, a change occurred. Maybe not right away, but over time, where I started feeling taller, more handsome, more comfortable, funnier, and a part of instead of apart from. And suddenly I found that I had what felt like superpowers, this magic elixir to be able to kind of take me into any situation I needed to be in without any worries. And of course, over the years, the amount of drinking that I did progressed, and using also came along with that. And anybody who knows anything about alcoholism knows it's a progressive disease. Once it happens, once you get into it, it gets worse, never better. I would say there's a genetic makeup and a component of it in my DNA. I've seen the history of it, untreated and a little treated. And then I ended up needing to be treated because after a number of years of indulging, shall we say, where I ended up having blackouts, which is a memory loss, driving with double vision, one hand over one eye, trying to get home safely. And fortunately for me, you get it. Yeah. Making it there safely, and then waking up the next day terrified that I might have hit something, not knowing, getting away unscathed with a couple of drunk driving tests on the side of the road that I passed, but probably shouldn't have. And then doing and saying things drunk that I wouldn't have done sober, ending up late to work, sick, all kinds of things. There's a 20 questions list for anyone out there who wants to know if they may indeed suffer from alcoholism. And depression started to kick in, and my drinking went from a big group of people socially all the way down to myself alone with the blinds drawn and a bottle of whiskey.
We lived a parallel life.
Is that right?
Except you have hair.
This is actually a wig.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah. So that's kind of the story. I mean, there were fun times. Otherwise, I never would have kept it up. That's really the rough journey. In the end, I remember calling a friend from a pub, and he said, "Quinton, I'll come down and sit with you, but I won't drink with you." Mm. And that's when things are bad. So I had a panic attack. It turns out I didn't know this. A friend of mine introduced me to her therapist, or a therapist recommended a therapist to me through her. And I went to this therapist, and the short of the long is she determined that I was suffering from clinical depression and a generalized anxiety disorder. I needed to be treated for that. And then when the doctor was to prescribe me the medication, he explained that I was not to drink while I was on the medication. And my first question was, for how long? And he said, well, as long as you're on the medication. I said, well, how long will I be on the medication? Oh, we don't know. And I remember the thought in my head, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Not recognizing that, that was a real problem. But of course it was. And over the course of the next year was my struggle. I did 6 months on the medication, didn't drink. But by the end of it, probably because I didn't have an understanding of the disease of alcoholism, I wasn't going to meetings. And I was probably at my wit's end. I knew that you couldn't drink while being on this medication. So I played doctor and said, well, I think I can drink now, and therefore I'll stop taking the medication. So I did as much. And what happened is I started sliding back down into a depression while I was trying to manage and control my drinking. And by the end of that next 6-month period, I was in a suicidally depressed place. So this is now 1 year later with the same therapist consulting. And she said, I really recommend you go back on your medication. I said, no. She said, well, then I recommend you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, where you can find a support group for people who are not drinking and their lives have gotten better. I said, no. She said, well, I need you to do something, because I can see you once a week, but I can't keep taking your calls in between. It just doesn't work that way. So I agreed to go to AA and, check it out. She explained that I could, sit and listen, and I could, be anonymous, and I didn't have to participate. And I was glad, because I was afraid. I was, resistant. I had a lot of contempt prior to investigation. And once I got there, I heard two people tell stories. One was an older woman from Wisconsin, who was probably about 30 years older than me at the time. And the other was an Englishman who was a rock star, whose band I admired. And both of their stories were the same as mine, this kid from Cleveland. And I thought, well, they think the way I think, and they feel the way I feel, and yet they're from completely different places. There must be something here. And I just felt this connection and an understanding that I hadn't felt before. Suddenly the penny dropped, as the Brits would say, and I knew I was in the right place. So from that moment, that would have been February 5th, 1997, I started coming back to those meetings, one day at a time, and becoming a member of this fellowship, and then getting the big book and working that book with someone who had been through the 12 steps before, and learning what I could about this illness. On top of it, as I mentioned before, depression and anxiety, I had to treat that as well. So I continued with therapy, and I continued with recovery. So a dual diagnosed person like myself, with some other mental obsessions and ruminations, it's been a tall order. It's not a one size fits all program of recovery. I have certainly benefited from other self-help programs, life coaching, Al-Anon as well. And yeah, I tell you, it's one of those things that I can't do it alone. Together we can. And I find that working with others, whether I'm helping them or they're helping me, we're helping each other. And it can shift even mid-conversation, as you know, from your own experience. It's an amazing thing. It's quite a gift. And, man is not an island. There's a reason there are billions of us on this planet. We're not meant to be alone. And yet, this kind of brain, I'd say the addictive brain, wants to isolate us and keep us away from people. Perhaps the disease does that. And that's the greatest offender. And I think it kills more than anything else.
Interesting. Yeah, I love everything you said. I can relate to just about all of it. My initial response to things is to sit at home by myself and try to figure it out. Yeah, so when you said isolate, I'm not a Christian guy or anything, but if there is a devil, I would call it isolation, at least for me. Yeah, whenever I see, oh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm fearful, angry, resentful, and I don't know what's going on, I'm going to figure it out all by myself. And then I never get the right answers. So the fellowship, one of the most powerful parts of or 12-step programs. But another thing you said is important, and the book even says so. It's like seek outside help where necessary. So therapy, coaching,
absolutely,
counseling of any sort. I mean, one of the awesome things that the 12-step program gets right is that sponsorship. It's like somebody who's not emotionally attached to your situation, but who has been through it before can help you navigate those waters. So I love that.
I'm with you 100%.
So share with us some of the tools that you use to navigate, because, all right, cool. We've established, all right, I drink too much. That's not going well. Other things are a little messed up here. But now that I don't drink, other things are still a little messed up. So share with us some of the tools that you use to get through like some of those struggles, the trials that life throws at you.
The first tool I had, besides going to meetings, which in this pandemic has been going to Zoom meetings, doing what we're doing now, except in a larger group setting.
Yeah.
There's that, picking up the phone, calling people. I mean, people tend to text a lot more these days, but it's getting a person on the phone to hear that voice and to have that shared experience. If it's possible to see someone in person, that's an asset. Writing, I do something. I did a book was called The Artist's Way, and in The Artist's Way, they had something called the morning pages, where you would write out longhand 3 pages, just anything that comes to mind. I kind of adopted that and adapted it to what I call the purge on paper. And I will take at least 3 pages and just write out everything that's in my head. And it's just like kind of vomiting it up. There are no rules. No one's going to judge it. You're not going to get graded on it. So it can be anything. And then I adapt that to another subset category, in which I write a letter to someone that I'm not going to send. And I tend to use a power greater than myself. Now, it can be whatever it is for anyone. It can be God, it can be the universe, it can be the ocean, it can be whatever you choose. But I pick something bigger than me and stronger than me and more powerful that can absorb anything I'm going to write. And as I say, I use God, and I would write, Dear God, so and so is this MFing blah 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 shit bag. Fuck God, I can't believe they've done this to me, and how dare they? And I'm losing out on this in life, and I'm this, and poor me, and poor me, and poor me another. Blah 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 blah. Usually, by the time I'm done writing out this 3-page letter of grievances, somehow it's gone from the problem into a solution, and then I find myself in serenity, love, care, and forgiveness and acceptance.
Yeah, it really is. And writing, there's so much stuff that you're talking about there that's just so powerful. Number one, writing. Remember, funky brain. So my thinking, my constant thinking all day long is like the source of all of my problems.
Yeah.
So writing will slow my brain down. The average person has 60 to 80,000 thoughts every single day. So it's impossible to have any real clarity or focus when you're thinking at that level. So writing, especially first thing in the morning, because I have an awesome life, just like you. We have great lives. So, but as soon as I open my eyes, I focus on like the 3 things that are not going perfectly well. If I could slow my brain down and write some of that shit out, like you were just talking about, in my coaching practice, I have what's called the 4-phase forgiveness process. So forgiveness is really the base of all religion, spiritual principles. There's this big core of forgiveness. And the first part is everything you just said. I have to get all that anger out, the resentment, the hatred, all that stuff, because I can't forgive and love at the same, and be angry at the same time. I can't be angry, resentful, and hateful and love and forgive at the same time. So I need to get rid of all the anger first. And then I can move into, you know what, I forgive you, it's okay. And then beyond that, it's what was my part in it and how can I release myself or you from all of this stuff. And then, like you talked about, I love myself, I forgive myself, and everything's going to be okay. So I love everything you said. It's real powerful stuff. Just to go back to, I think it's important to have somebody with you on that ride.
Yeah.
Like the coach, the mentor, the sponsor, the close friend. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to get formal and pay lots of money. You don't have to go to a meeting. Just have to have somebody to run stuff by.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's key, to have people to open up to who understand. And of course, I have found that key to recognize who in my life understands that which I can share, and vice versa. Because there are those who don't, and I have to remember that. Otherwise, I'm trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
What are some of the struggles that you've had to overcome in your process in sobriety to get to where you are?
Clinical depression has been the most difficult one for me. Major depressive disorder. And I've been struggling with that for over 23 years. And I've had ups and I've had downs, and I've had the help of therapists, psychiatrists, medication. At one point, I did ECT, which didn't work for me.
What is ECT?
ECT is electroconvulsive therapy. They call it shock treatment in the old days.
Right.
That was something that Carrie Fisher was an advocate of. It kind of reboots the brain. And I guess in some cases it works. It didn't work for me. I did inpatient and I did outpatient, but it didn't treat my depression. So I still am on a regimen of recovery, medication, exercise, diet, and it's not anything I would wish on my worst enemy. It's one of the most debilitating illnesses there is, and it's not something that anybody can see. So trying to explain it to those who don't understand, they don't get it. Right. They just think it's sadness. They think it's unhappiness. They think, just get over it. Take a hike, take a little walk. You're going to be good. Watch a funny movie. And of course, I want to assassinate them verbally, right. Because I have those skills to lacerate and eviscerate with my tongue.
Sure.
I would never willfully hurt anybody. Just let's,
I believe you. I don't see that about you, that you would hurt anybody.
No. But I'll entertain you to death.
Entertain to death. I like that. Well, one thing I agree that I love that you said that I think is so important is the diet and exercise piece. I think it's crucial because, and I don't know if you, hopefully you'll agree on this. If not, then we can fight each other verbally. But like, I think when there's newcomers getting sober and then they're eating crappy and smoking cigarettes and everything like that, and everybody's like, oh, just keep smoking. And I just think that's a huge mistake. I think now smoking didn't make me drive my car into things that don't move and pee my pants and hurt people I love. But at the same time, one of the most important aspects, I think, is keeping our minds sharp. And smoking and eating a bunch of sugar and crap all day long, every day, isn't going to keep my mind sharp. So when cravings come or overwhelming life hits me, I think that diet and exercise is such a crucial piece. Staying sober and healthy. Remember, this isn't a not drinking contest. I want to not drink so I can enjoy life. And doing all these harmful things, you know what, for the first few days, if you need to keep smoking cigarettes and eating a pound of chocolate every day, that's fine. Let's grow up. That's my opinion, and I get a little tough about it, but that's my thoughts on it.
I'd say I would agree with you. It would be nice if there was a physical component to recovery, health and wellness in terms of maybe eating and exercise. You're right. That's not something that happens to fall within the confines of the big book, but it is something that we all need for longevity and for a happy, healthy life. And it's not something that I've been particularly great at. I'll just be honest. I've backslid with it, and there's times I do okay, and there's other times that I can't. And part of that is a little bit of resistance in general, but again, I go back to the depressive part of my illness. When I'm in that, then all bets are off. Even calling somebody, picking up a phone can feel like I'm picking up 1,000 pounds. It's a completely distorted perception that it's an add-on, that's an additional darkness. It's like gauze over my brain, and it's a different component than addiction or alcoholism.
Interesting. Yeah, that was well described, by the way. That probably wasn't your first time describing that feeling.
No. I've tried explaining it to different therapists and psychiatrists and or friends and fellows to get them to understand what it's like. It's a certain form of blackness, and it even intrudes in my dream state. And it's beyond not pleasant. I wish I were what they call a garden variety alcoholic. That would be a hell of a lot easier.
And I love my viewers, listeners to hear this stuff. Some people that are struggling, sitting at home with these same feelings, and they think, oh, if only I had the right job or the right money or the right wife or the right life, then everything would be better or perfect. But it's not. It's not the case.
Dennis, I'm so glad you said that, because let me just say that suddenly I have Richard Nixon in my head from 1972. Let me say this about that. For any of you out there who don't know who President Nixon is, well, you might know him from Futurama. Anyway, he was one of our presidents, as you know. But let me say this about that. I actually, when I got into therapy and got into recovery, I was at a peak state in my career. So financially, things had blossomed. I was doing what I wanted to do creatively as an artist. I was a singer in a band. I was doing comedy, sketch comedy. My voiceover career as an actor had just taken off. And financially, I was in good stead, but it didn't fill the inside gap or hole. It's been said the farthest distance we'll have to travel is from our head to our heart.
That's right.
Because it's an inside job. So I want to say, in response to what you said, to some of those folks out there who might be thinking, I need, these things to be happy. I need to have a podcast to be happy. I mean, Dennis, even me sitting here looking at you with the impossible behind your head and that great set that you have, I think, and I'm not kidding, I think I need that setup to be happy. I need Dennis's life to be happy. I need the book that he has written to be happy. I need to have the career he has to be happy, because no doubt he's happier than me. I'm currently in a set of mindset of compare and despair. So I'm like one of your viewers out there right now who's looking at you and looking at me saying, I want to be like that guy with the Johnny Cash t-shirt on who's doing Paul McCartney. I'm Richard Nixon. And, Christopher Walken and anybody you want me to do, because God, he must have a great life. Well, you can't see on the other side of this laptop that there's an unmade bed. Messy bed, messy head. So that said, I bottomed out when I had all those things. And those things didn't fix it. We have to be right with ourselves and right with life. And in my case, right with God, sane, sound, and sober for me to be balanced. I'm not one of those people who can just take a drink with impunity. I need to have some kind of a balanced life, and it takes a lot of work.
It does. Well, it takes effort. It takes action. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. So one of the guys I interviewed, his name's Darren Prince, and you may or may not know who he is, but he's represented a lot of the biggest icons on the planet, including Muhammad Ali. He represents Magic Johnson, Carmen Electra, Hulk Hogan, Charlie Sheen, like all these people that we all know. And he was on top of the world. He's been sober, I want to say maybe 12 years or so. I have the episode up on YouTube. You could see it. He was on top of the world, hanging out with Muhammad Ali, and his life was falling apart. So it's not, if only I had this, everything would be better. That's not true. I get into this a lot, and some people give me crap about it, but the law of attraction stuff, the way that they market that stuff is really not great. Now, you need to think positively and think about positive things and think about good coming into your life. But just thinking, I'm going to get $1 million and sit on the couch and play Xbox, that's not going to work. Or just thinking, I'm going to manifest all this perfect world and everything's going to be great. It doesn't work like that. I need to write. I need to meditate, and I need to call people and talk to people and diet and exercise and take action. I can't just wait for perfect to come to me. It doesn't work like that. So if she had written all that stuff in the book, then she wouldn't be worth $100 million now. If she had wrote, you need to manifest all this stuff, positive thinking, what the energy you put out into the world is what you get back at you, but you have to work. If she wrote that, then Oprah wouldn't have picked up the book and she wouldn't have sold 100 million copies. But, I like to tell people you have to make an effort to change, right? If nothing changes, nothing changes. And don't get me wrong, like you want to think positively for sure. Walk around thinking positively while you're working, while you're taking steps to make your life better.
Right. And if those thoughts are interrupted by negative ones and you can't get rid of them, then call someone and share them like we were talking about, because we don't have to do this thing alone. In fact, how can you do it alone? I learned the we concept, which of course is the first step. We admitted we were powerless. Well, how do we do this? We do this together. Simply, if there's a couch and I have to move it, I'm going to have a hell of a time moving it myself. But if I ask you, Dennis, to help me, where two or more of us are gathered, there is a power greater than ourselves at work.
Well put. I appreciate that. So tell me, what's something that people misunderstand about Quinton?
Gosh, it's an excellent question. You'd have to ask them.
Now that's an excellent answer.
Yeah. Because I don't know. It depends on who you're talking to at the time, I think. I would love to know. I don't know if I've ever gotten a straight answer from anyone. Perhaps I should put it out there and have everybody write in and let me know. They might think that I just have the most interesting, fascinating life, and that I've got the world by the balls, as it were, and I'm walking on sunshine. And that would be a misperception. I am happiest when I'm entertaining people. I'm happiest when I'm helping other people in recovery. I'm happiest when I'm being of service in some capacity. And when I'm on the road doing conventions, I usually do question and answer panels where I have a three-pronged approach, and that's to educate, inspire, and entertain. And I get to use the best of what I've gleaned from recovery and also life success, and then inspire those who want to follow their chosen profession or craft, and by using my improvisational skills, impressions, storytelling, and comedy skills to bring levity and life and love to the room. So I think, and the misperception would be that because I make people laugh and do, funny characters and impressions and voices and entertain, that I must be happy all the time. And life must be a cabaret, old chum. But it's not true. It's lonely. And when I get back to my hotel room, that's the toughest part. Then I'm alone with myself. And some people are introverts. I'm either an ambivert or an extrovert. I need people. I need to feed off of people. I can't live in a vacuum. And that's the best way for me to live and to work is through and with others. Because alone, boy, this brain's a dangerous neighborhood to go into alone.
Right. We shouldn't go up there without adult supervision, right?
I agree. I agree. There's times I'm pleading for it, but nobody hears me because I'm alone in my room.
Right. So tell me one last thing here. What's something that you knew about the entertainment and that you wish you had known before you got into entertainment all those years ago?
Well, that it is a business, and that once you're on the other side of the looking glass, you see what makes it tick. You see how things are produced and how things are created and how things come together. And because of that, I can't unsee it now. So if I'm watching TV, I see the machinations. Movies the same way. Music similarly. I now see it and or hear it with the producers, directors, actors, key grip, wardrobe or makeup artists' eye, ear, and mind. So I find it very difficult to watch and enjoy and be entertained because I've been around, through, behind, and within, and a part of all of those things that make entertainment. Like I said, being on the other side of the looking glass. So it's hard for me to sit with people and just watch TV and enjoy it.
That's really fascinating. I could totally, what a great answer. So I'm an old chef. I was a chef years ago, and I still do like these really fine high-end meals for some people, but and it's more fun that way instead of working in a dark kitchen, staring at the same yellow walls for 60 hours a week for $7 an hour.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. But the point is, like, I know what it takes to have, like, when you go out to dinner and you see that beautiful meal and you taste it, and you're like, wow, I know what goes into there. But I look at it from, and I'm not a critique. People are like, because I'm a classically trained French chef, so people are like scared to death to like make me dinner or go out to dinner with me. But I am never critical unless they ask me something specifically. And I look at it more from the lens of, wow, I can appreciate what went into this.
Yeah.
So I can enjoy it. That's really interesting though. So you can enjoy the show because you're looking at the background, like what it took to get to what we're looking at on the screen.
Quite often, unless something's done incredibly well, it's got to be an extraordinary piece of art, film, TV, or music. If it's something that's extraordinary, then it can take me away and I can suspend disbelief. If it's not, then I start to see the cracks, and then that's a drag. And I keep it to myself unless I'm sitting with somebody else who's also in the business and then wants to talk about it and break it down. But yeah, there's sometimes magic happens and it takes me away. I was watching anything that Gene Wilder's in takes me away. He's a magician of actors. He's a heart and soul, and what he does, and there's not many people who can do that. That's just one example.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there's times I can enjoy it. And then there's other times when I can be the worst critic, or I'll be the person sitting in a live theater watching a performance on stage or a movie. And when people in general are laughing, I'm silent. And when I'm laughing, everybody else is silent.
Interesting.
It usually takes something odd to really get me, because usually I see it coming.
That's fascinating stuff, man. Well, I've really loved our talk today. Maybe we could do it again sometime.
I'd love to. I think
So,
we just scratched the surface.
So if somebody wants to get in touch with Quinton, how do they do that?
I would say Instagram. That's at Quinton Flynn 1.
And new projects you want people to check out?
Yeah, well, gosh, I have one called No More Heroes 3. That's coming out in 2021. It's a video game in which I play Sir Henry Cooldown, who's an Irish assassin, and it's grand.
That sounds like who's the old James Bond, Sean Connery.
Oh, Sean Connery, of course. Well, Dennis, I understand that you're a fine chef. Maybe you could make some food for me so I can get out of bed.
I would love to do that.
So yeah, that's the latest and greatest I can think of. I think you guys check out A Night in Jail by Heidi Anderson Swan, or H.A. Swan. Please check out the audio book, and you can hear me talking to myself, talking to you. And yeah, I'd say that's it for now, Dennis.
Awesome, Quinton. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, buddy.
And thanks everybody for tuning in to the Funky Brain podcast today. I hope you heard something fun. I did. Lots of great impressions, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. So you can't think your way into a new way of acting. You have to act your way into a new way of thinking and being. Hi, I'm Dennis Berry, best-selling author, speaker, and life coach for addiction recovery. So many people are stuck in their addiction, whether it's like drugs or alcohol or food or shopping or sex or money, and they think they could just stop or try to figure it out on their own, but they don't change anything in their lives. Nothing changes if nothing changes. In order for change to happen, you have to change something. My clients will be like, oh, I'll stop tomorrow, or if this happens, then I stop, or someday I'll just give it up. And then they just sit around and think, and hope for different or better results, but it doesn't happen. You have to take action. Action most people aren't willing to take. People don't become willing until they're in enough pain, me included. And unfortunately, they wait and they wait. And time passes by. Even if you are willing, you don't even know where to begin. And that's where I come in. In my best-selling book, Funky Wisdom, A Practical Guide to Life, I talk about the how approach. How do I get sober? How do I stop doing drugs? How do I become healthier? How do I have more successful relationships? How do I become more financially successful? And the answer is how. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I have to honestly admit that there's a problem. I have to honestly admit that things aren't going well and there needs to be changes. And then once I do that, the door opens and I become open to seeing new ways of living. And then I become willing to make those changes. You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. That's why I'm here to help. And, you know, I've been working with clients for over 15 years and helping them get clean and sober and change their lives and achieve inner peace and success. If you or somebody you love is struggling and doesn't know where to begin and how to make those changes to get to where they need to be, give me a call. Not tomorrow or in a week from now when you are hungover and your life is falling apart. Call now. Start making that change today and you'll be glad that you did. I'm sending you love and good vibes. Have a great day today.